I've just been jamming the last 2 minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me turn the music down a tad, even like it just keep going. Hey, yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Where is everyone coming from today? Write it in the chat. Where are we from? Where are we from? And welcome to this evening's meeting here. I'm so excited. It is day 3 for our She Breathes Summit, and we have Chervin's crew in here as well. So I want to welcome everyone. It is such a privilege and an honor always to hold these kinds of spaces where we get to talk about the shit that we love, all the good stuff. So I'm just so happy that you're here. And, you know, I was putting together this summit and I saw on Chervin's Instagram, he was posting about, you know, the biology and the cycles of men and women and how men cycle in a 24-hour and women cycle in a 28-day. And I thought it was so refreshing because I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I literally just put in one of my modules in this breathwork certification course I'm doing. And I was like, it's so beautiful to hear men as well talking about the female cycle. And of course, he was also mentioning the men's cycle as well, which I think is something as well to note and to learn about. So this is really, really cool. I'm very excited to be here. I also want to name that we're going to do a little bit of breath work. We're going to do like 5 minutes of a meditation to get going. And then after that, I'm going to pass you guys off to Chervin, and he is going to take us through cellular coherence. So Chervin is the Chief Science Officer of Symbiotica and an incredible human doing so many amazing things. And I'm just so happy and honored to have this exclusive pop-up for the summit. And so how does that sound for everyone? If you guys can turn your cameras on, let's see your faces. I feel so lonely here. All I see is Meg and Tracy and Anita. Let's go. Yes, there's another Tracy in the house. I see you. Who else we got in here? Charlene, Mary, Joanne. I know it's nighttime for a lot of us, so we're like, but we're sleepy and in bed. That's okay. Let me let in a few more people here too, actually. So I am going to take y'all through, by the way, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Michelle Argyris. I'm a somatic breathwork expert. What I love to do is certify other women in learning how to become trauma-informed breathwork experts as well. And so this type of work and getting to have these conversations are so meaningful to me. And putting the summit on was, you know, such a pleasure. And we've just been diving into so much cool shit every single day. And it's like we never know what's in store for us. And every workshop just keeps getting better and better and better. So I'm really stoked. So let's go ahead. We're going to just close our eyes for a minute and drop in. So just closing our eyes and allowing yourself to land into the space here now. Beautiful. And I want you to feel your seat bones on the ground. And for a moment, just giving yourself rest to allow ourselves to silence the thoughts in the mind. We're busy doing and pushing, and in this moment, there's nothing you have to do except for to be here in this moment, in this presence, in this rawness. There you are. Yeah. And maybe for a moment, just simply connecting to the earth and feeling the surface underneath you and feeling that support that you are held always, no matter what. That you are loved no matter what. And maybe for a moment, just tuning into the center of your heart, this infinite amount of space inside your body. And just really feeling the depth of your love present here in the space now. And maybe just feeling this beautiful light starting to open from the center of your chest. and just holding every part of you, letting her know that she's so welcome in this space. She can be here now in fullness, in wholeness, in rawness, in truth. You coming back to the cell that you are, this beautiful essence that existed before we came here to planet Earth, will exist beyond here. And just noticing how incredible you are. Wow. Wow. Maybe even saying that out loud, just wow. And with that, we're going to take 3 beautiful deep breaths. And I want you to sip in through your heart, in through the nose. Big, beautiful inhale. And a nice sigh. So good. 2 more just like that. Big inhale. And a nice sigh. Last one, big inhale, holding it at the top. Good, holding your breath, holding your love, creating more space internally, and just allowing all of you to come online, every cell in your body to be here in this space now. And when you're ready to share in this beautiful collective space, we're going to exhale that out of the mouth together in 3, 2, 1, letting that go. Beautiful. And before opening the eyes, just feeling the warmth in your heart and placing it behind your eyeballs and feeling what it's like to hold this warmth behind. And when you're ready to open your eyes through the lens of your heart, we're going to come back online into the screen. Welcome. Did we just feel a little bit more grounded? Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you for your hearts. All right, so let's get to the good stuff. So Chervin, if you want to jump on here, he's going to be taking us through about 45 minutes. And I don't know, Chervin, if you want to do questions throughout or just hold questions to the end, but you can kind of walk us through that. Hey, there he is.
Aloha, everybody.
Hey.
I really appreciate that breath work, Michelle. I needed that. It's been one of those days,
Yeah.
and it goes in line with what we're going to get into this evening. This is the time of yin. We're in the middle of winter, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. I don't know where everybody's at, and it goes directly in line with everything that I want to talk about when it comes to women's health. Way more than for women's health than it is for men's health. And getting back into kind of the elemental perspective and the things that we've kind of forgotten living in this mechanistic modern world. As you can see in my home, I don't have any LED lights here in this house. My computer, my phones have complete red blocks on them. Uh, I will not expose myself to any blue fractured light past 4:30, 5 p.m. in the afternoon, whether that's summertime or wintertime, maybe a little bit longer in wintertime, excuse me, in summertime. And very, very important notion that I want to get into tonight. So I'm excited to talk to you guys. We can make it a little bit flowing. I think I'll stop in certain moments so we can hash on a few things. I want this to be very productive. This isn't going to be a standard me speak for 45 minutes straight and everyone try to digest it and we move on into our next chapter in life. Let's make this as productive as possible. And thank you for putting this together, Michelle. I'm glad I jumped on the train. Okay, so let's get started. Can you guys, everyone can hear me good? I just want to make sure that's fine. Okay. And I the theme around this is the health of the feminine, right? And everyone seems to always go into hormones when we talk about women's health. It's hormone this, it's hormone that. It's this hormone doctor, it's this functional doctor talking about hormones. And hormones aren't the root cause. They're just a messenger. They're just part of the system that's trying to communicate from gland to system through a biochemical process, through oils, through the vagus nerve, through different parts of the reproductive system, to different parts of the brain and the central nervous system. Hormones are the chemical, and I hate calling it chemical, but technically the way that it's structured, it is a chemical compound, and those are the messengers of the body. The hormones, the reason why everyone calls it the hormones and says that's the root of a woman's problem and the root of a woman's health, in my opinion, is that it goes directly into the allopathic perspective of health. If we can bring a certain level back, whether that's T3, T4, estrogen, estradiol, whatever it is, we can technically cheat the system back to equilibrium. And by doing such, not only are we going to reduce the symptoms, meaning what the body is trying to communicate to the person in charge, but we can also lay the groundwork for a healthier, happier, thriving life. But I'm telling you, outside of maybe one spectrum of woman who's probably in her, mid 50s going into her 60s that might be low on testosterone or something else, it really does not create a clear path forward. In fact, it caused more confusion than not. And you get into the part where cells are confused. And that's why I wanted to call this experience cellular coherence, because we want to go back into coherence. We want to go back into the programs of the cells and their innate ability to communicate with each other. Now, if you've been following me for some time, you would know that the core of my methodology of health, of reaching the highest level of not only longevity, but human potential, is through the absolute keystone of cellular communication, meaning cells need to properly communicate. And how do our cells properly communicate? Well, it goes back to mitochondrial health. And I'm pretty excited that I find that there's a lot of colleagues now in the community, both men and women. I see a lot of women that are taking charge here that really understand that the foundation of women's health begins with the mitochondria. And I know that sounds like a almost a cliche statement, but what does that mean? Well, what are mitochondria? They're the energy factories of the cell, right? Mitochondria is what converts all forms of food, energy, light into adaptable energy in the body. Meaning when you get sunlight on the rise and father sun hits your suprachiasmatic nerve, which sits behind your eye and your brain, when it hits the cholesterol on your skin and converts to hormone D3, when it converts other enzymes in the body to activate natural killer cells, so it can rid your body of certain pathogens and fungus and molds and all those toxins. Your body goes through very, very specific activity, and it uses mitochondria to generate the feedback cycle, the loop, to convert that outside energy into internal energy. And that internal energy we call ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. The triphosphate is very interesting. It's one of those compounds that as soon as your body starts to use it, one of the phosphate groups fall off and it becomes adenosine diphosphate, meaning two. And when your body is not generating enough electric voltage through the body, whether that's coming from food, whether that's coming from water and minerals, whether that's coming from hydrogen, whether that's coming from sunlight, whether that's coming from the infrared light coming from my fireplace right now, then your body stays at a low level of adenosine diphosphate. And at that point, you start to have incoherent cellular communication, meaning the energy factors can't keep up with the amount of signaling that's happening in the body. You throw that in with all the modern issues that we're dealing today, and if you follow me, you would know that I do a pretty good job over the last 10 years talking about these problems. Now, I'm not a Debbie Downer, but I do think that we need to identify what these issues are, especially with the modern mechanistic way of living. We're definitely not living as our human bodies and our innate wisdom synthesize them to do whatever in this dimension. We're far from it. And so if we're not having that cellular coherence and we've fallen so far off the track because, we're living in some strange city, we're in a, metropolitan city, we're being exposed to things, we're getting hit with non-native electromagnetic frequencies, we might be exposed to other frequencies that we don't even talk about publicly. You might be exposed to mold toxicity, and for lack of a better term, just an overabundance of chemical exposure. I'm not sure if you guys saw the podcast I did with Heidi and Spencer Pratt over on their burned house over in the Palisades. I highly advise you to go watch that. I break down everything that happened during that fire because that wasn't a forest fire, that was a city fire. But all of those chemicals and compounds we're exposed to on a daily basis. Driving on a freeway, the amount of plastics you're exposed to on a freeway. Most people don't, they think that you're getting plastics from plastic water bottles. No, you just drive on the freeway, you're getting more plastic exposure. Where do you think all that rubber is coming from? The tires. That rubber is made of petroleum. It's plastic. I can go on and on and on. I talk about these things ad nauseum. We're exposed to so many things. We were exposed to spike proteins. We were exposed to everything you can think of under the sun. So if we're getting hit with that level of exposure, and at the same time, the energy factories of our body are not stabilized to at least equilibrium, and it's actually, let's say it's dropped off 10%, 15, 30, 40, then all of a sudden your body's burden gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And every cycle, it will continue to get worse and worse. And what do I mean by every cycle? Every 28 days. So we got to stop thinking about this mentality of 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 70 years from now, and start getting very acute. And let me give you an example. When you are in the NBA, for example, and you're playing, the coach doesn't give a shit about 4 games ago, and he doesn't give a shit about 10 games ahead of him. He doesn't even care about the end of the game. All he cares to his team is let's win this quarter. We have to win this quarter. So if we're down by 20 points going into the third quarter, let's get back. Let's go into the fourth quarter down by 10. Let's bring the deficit from 20 to 10. It's a realistic goal. I really like this analogy. I just came up with it, by the way. I hope you guys like it too. That this is the mentality that we're missing because of the way that the brain has been trained for instant gratification. Just like how TikTok and social media and all this mind mass control has basically destroyed the synaptic firing of calm, relaxation, digestion, emotional digestion. It's just give me the answer, give me the answer, give me the answer, right? Instead of taking the long stairs to the top of success, how do I take this turbocharged elevator, right? And I'm using these analogies with our health. Even people that are quote unquote in the holistic arena still come to me for an allopathic answer. I don't care if it's a pharmaceutical drug or one of the most biodynamic herbs coming from the North Shore of Kauai. It's still an allopathic desire to get solved quickly. And it doesn't work that way. The system doesn't work that way, especially with women. You guys are in a very, very unique cycle of life. Very, very unique. And it has to be methodical and it has to be understood, meaning appreciated in terms of the emotional and physical intelligence on what it is that you're trying to achieve in the human body. The placebo effect is real. It's 100% real, meaning your discernment on how your body functions is the first ticket to get into the movie. Without that, forget about it. And that's why I applaud the students. I applaud, and that's why I take the time to work with people that are self-fulfilling themselves by educating themselves and practicing what I always like to call self-love. Because without that, you got nothing. What gets me up at 5:30 every day without an alarm clock, getting me on my molecular hydrogen, on my Icelandic sea salt, naked in front of the sun, whether it's clear or not, on the earth? Why am I doing that every single day? It's because I'm practicing the greatest gift of self-love. Well, why do I do that? Because I know what it's doing for me. And I'm past that now. It's not even a matter of what I'm doing for me, is now it's become ritual. Now it's programmable, it's programmed into my DNA. And it's part of my lifestyle. I couldn't change it even if I wanted to. It would take a Herculean effort for me not to do that anymore. And everything that means something of value starts with consistency. It's not instant gratification. It's not what can I take to do this? What herb can I take to this? What supplement? What symbiotica supplement should I take, Chervin, to do X, Y? It doesn't work that way. It never has, never will. It's extremely important that we start to understand why we have to dedicate our practice to the ritual. And it's not because I want to be this cool social media figure with this big old company and everyone listens to me and I'm this guru. I don't give a shit about any of that. I never have. That's why I've never cheated the social media algorithms. You see it all right now. I don't try to sell something in that sense. It's just everything is authentic and it's coming from a high level, deep, I would say almost penetrating respect for humanity. And it's part of my mission. And if you're hearing this right now, the key to this and the reason why you're here tonight, however many there are, is that it's part of your mission as well. If you look at this conversation as this is not random, that I'm sitting here in my home, I'm laying down in my bed, I'm relaxing and I'm soaking up this information, something has called you here. And so take this opportunity of moral support for yourself because you're giving yourself the greatest act of self-love. And so if we get back to cellular coherence, how do we create order inside the body? Well, we use circadian rhythms. We use quantum biology. We use detoxification. We use fasting. Yes, we use fasting. We use emotional sovereignty, right? These are pillars. These aren't little tricks, little sidekicks. These are actual pillars that we need to operate with and understand fully to be able to function and get ourselves back to where we want to. Women's health isn't complicated. It really isn't. Now, I don't mean to disregard what everyone's ever going through, but it's one of those things that if you start to understand the fundamentals, right, all of it starts to make sense. Because the truth is, your body's not broken at all. The amount of people that come to me over the last 10 years saying that my body is broken, it's failing me, I'm sick, I have no ability to digest food anymore. My sleep is terrible. I have brittle hair. My skin's terrible. Emotional roller coaster, ups and down, fatigue, chronic fatigue. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And I always tell them that your body's not broken. Just the mentality that my body's broken is already putting them behind the eight ball. It's just not, your body's just not responding intelligently to the signals. That's really it. It's a lack of communication. If you look at heavy metal toxicity or, mercury toxicity from, a plethora of different things, methyl mercury, for example, methyl mercury detonates the brain and the central nervous system's ability to send a signal through calcium ions. It gets distorted. The mercury gets in between. That's why they put him in the shot because it can penetrate into things. Everyone always wonders why does mercury go into certain, shots? Well, it's because mercury goes and just basically is like a main line. It just cuts through things. That's why all the ancient alchemists were using mercury to turn lead into gold, right? So I'm using that as an example that all the neurodegenerative diseases, Parkinson's, ALS, all that, we now know it's not just an amyloid plaque problem, it's just complete cellular breakdown. It's confusion in the body. So the key here is we want to do everything in our power to get the body to properly communicate. And I think at the root of it, now we'll get into the circadian, but we'll get into your connection to self. How do you talk to yourself? Really, when the lights are off, people are not around. Your brain isn't rattled into 10 different topics running at once. If you're constantly consuming toxicity from social media, all the stuff that's coming out online on you know what files, all that crazy stuff, whatever the hell it is, it could be the news channels, it could be all that kind of stuff. There's no way that your nervous system is going to allow you to be able to find coherence. It's almost impossible. And because people are so rattled, their nervous systems are so rattled, and there's no coherence by the time they're 20 years old, if not younger, they're now become a drug addict. Just think about that for a second. If you don't have cellular coherence, you don't have equilibrium, your vagus nerve is completely unregulated, then you need stimulation. You with me? You need stimulation because you've created such a deficit in the flow of the electric current in the body that you need pulses of it just to survive. Why do you think you see people everywhere on the streets, everywhere in the shopping malls, everywhere, even at sporting events or wherever, they're sitting there, and if they can't sit still for more than 3 seconds, they're scrolling their phone. I don't know what podcast I was on, but it was a funny moment. I went to a Laker game, I don't know, 3, 4 months ago, and I went to the bathroom, and there's 9 stalls. People are over there taking a piss. And I'm in line to go to this bathroom, and every single one of these guys was peeing and scrolling their phone while they're fucking peeing. Okay? While they're going to the bathroom, a sacred act. They couldn't just do their 20-second, 30-second bid, whatever the hell it is. They had to be on social media or whatever they were doing just to cover time while they were peeing. That's a real problem. And what that is because the current is so distorted now that they need that outside frequency to create some form of stability, or all of a sudden the bottom drops out. And that's why people, have trouble in silence. Now, on the other side of that, if you go super extreme, now we're talking about going to a Vipassana, for example, right? Where it's a 10-day silent retreat, or you do like a 30-day one or whatever it is. But part of my entire reality, and I'm working 13, 14, 15 hours a day. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't work a 9 to 5. Every employee that I have for Symbiotica, I work for them. I'm nobody's boss. They're my boss. So what does that mean? That means that I'm constantly working. And not only am I constantly working, I also am in a position for the most part where I have to be able to be touched at almost all times. Now, what do I mean by that? We're in the age of super communication, right? Which is actually destroying real communication, if you ask me, because of text messaging, instant communications. But anyone can be touched. I could be backpacking in the Himalayas, and my business partner can message me an emergency, and 3 seconds later, while I'm in the Himalayas, you know, singing to the goats, tripping off Shilajit, and connecting to like the Taoist immortal, and all of a sudden I could be taken into an extreme emergency that changes my entire biochemistry instantaneously. We have to be very careful with that. Now, I'm very aware that I'm under that kind of spell, but that's the sacrifice that I am prepared to make to build and do what I'm doing. Now, I say this as an example because I wanted to make tonight very personal. Look at your life. Take some time, do some due diligence on your life. Are you constantly bombarded by somebody else's shit? Have you set boundaries for yourself? Because we could talk about every single pharmacopoeia amount of science from every product you can imagine, every herb we can imagine. But if you're constantly in the fires of other people's stuff, you can never get better. This is a fundamental part of life that we have changed through this modern technocratic world. I remember when I was 12, 13 years old, 11 years old, I spent my days like, terrorizing my neighborhoods and in the canyons and surfing all day long. We didn't have phones. We got pagers when I was like in seventh grade or something. Now, with this level of communication, our entire realities are getting flipped around. Our cortisol baths are getting flipped around, and we're living in other people's identities. Children are the most susceptible, especially at age 3 to 7. That's when their brains are operating in theta. Theta is the imaginary frequency state. It's a very specific frequency to pick up all imagination and to pick up all the surroundings so they can learn how to do things, right? How to chop wood, carry water, how to get the food, how to grow the food, all of those things. They have to learn and mimic it. That's why theta is very strong. Theta is also the frequency right before we go to bed and also right when we rise. These are very interesting times. That's why your ritual before you go to bed and your ritual when you rise is extremely important. There's fundamental training experiences like Psyche, that Dr. Bruce Lipton and a few other people have pioneered to how to retrain the brain and the central nervous system and the biology of belief through theta training. And these are things that you can do. Maybe you want to start going outside and standing like a tree for 1 hour and don't move. You could do that, something extreme like that. But why can't we do those things? Are we weak? We don't have time? If you start committing to yourself, I'm telling you, the gains are extraordinary and the momentum is real. All I always talk about it, health, mental health, spiritual health, financial health, it's all momentum based. It's all momentum based. And the same thing can go the other direction. That poor guy that they're cutting the walls of the buildings away to carry him out on a forklift because he's 900 pounds, that didn't happen overnight. It was some kind of traumatic wound. Maybe he was bullied as a kid, maybe parental issues, who knows, whatever it is. All of a sudden, metabolic just destroyed, all of a sudden, depression, all of a sudden, boom, and then cascading, and then you're gaining 50, 75 pounds every 6 months. The momentum can go any direction. You just have to plant your flag and decide what direction you want it to go on. So if you want to transform your health, don't chase the symptoms. We got to create cellular coherence. And again, it starts with the fundamentals. So for me, fundamentals, sunlight, circadian rhythm, hydration, mineralization, supporting detox through drainage. Another important one, more so for women than for men. More so for women than for men, because women naturally have more internal fatty tissue than men by nature. And where does the body want to put toxins? They want to put it in the fatty tissue because they want it away from all the organs. That's why visceral fat is so dangerous. That's why skinny fat is so dangerous. A lot of women ask me, what's the best way to detox? What's the best way to create a system that knows how to get rid of toxins? I always say movement. Movement's number one. Nothing trumps movement. Nothing. Not infrared saunas, not gua sha, not kidney detox, nothing, not chelation, not IV chelation, not charcoal, not binders, not hydrocolon hydrotherapy. All of these are amazing. I do all of these things. But the number one thing a woman can do is movement. And it's not just get your 10,000 steps in. No, that's great for your metabolic health and necessary for cardiovascular metrics and all of those things. But the number one thing a woman can do is to sweat her ass off. It's the number one thing you can do. Move, air squats, burpees, jumps, jumping. I tell my mom and sister every single day, jump, especially for bone health, central nervous system health. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's a fact. Just think about survival of the fittest, right? Darwin had a point. I don't believe in his absolutism because I believe in God. I believe in spirit. But I believe in Darwin's perspective that it is survival of the fittest. Of course it is. And how do we define fit? Mentally fit, emotionally fit, spiritually fit. Those are the pillars. Physical comes in line with that. But if you're not physically fit, can you be mentally fit? You can't. You might have a few short wins, but in terms of an overall spectrum of looking at life through a graph, the fitter you are physically, the fitter your potential is mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because you're going to have more time in your body and your body's going to work for you. It's not rocket science. Everyone that wants to aggregate things and separate them and box them up and do all that stuff, it's a waste of time and energy. The more fit you are, guess what? The more safe you feel. Think about that for a second. Safety is huge for women. I know this. I have a mother and sister. I'm the patriarch of my family now. My father moved on. So I became the patriarch. And I investigate these things. I investigate the feminine. I want to understand. I want to understand what they're feeling, which is why if you're ever around me, I'm very protective. I have a very protective energy. I keep a very strong circle. Women want to feel safe. That's power for a woman, of course. And when your body feels safe, what can it do? It can do anything. It can heal. It can strengthen. Your hormones start to function better, right? Because the signaling's there. Your intuition comes back on. You guys know better than me. Rudolf Steiner said it. I've known it. A woman's intuition is 10,000x my intuition. I don't care if I'm clairvoyant. I don't care if I'm tapped into the deepest level of alchemy when it comes to spiritual health, psychedelic health, living in the jungles, becoming an ayahuasca. All of those were great parts of my journey. But I will have nothing compared to a woman in terms of intuitive power. Of course. You guys bring life into this world. The void is literally inside of you, where physical physiology and adaptation and God sync together to throw a lightning strike, and DMT is used to corner that information and spark life. That's inside of you. So you're in your power, you're in an equilibrium phase, and all of a sudden the intuition comes back online. Watch out. Now you got some momentum around you. Now you have an opportunity to then create some serious change. And that is really your God-given right. You have that right. I see all this like fundamental activism on feminism and stuff like that. And I'm not here to get political, but I always sometimes just sit back and I'm like, a lot of these women, their heads in the right place, their heart's in the right place, but they're missing the value here. Get into your power, your adaptive power. That is your first class ticket to salvation and freedom. Everything there comes online, all of it. Now, who's got spring water with them right now? And who loaded it up with Icelandic sea salt? All right. So let's go into some of the rapid fire stuff because, you know, the same way that I'm getting up every day, the same way that I'm living. Now, granted, this isn't my everyday because I'm under tremendous stress right now. If you don't know, I make all the products at Symbotica, so I've basically been living in my lab for the last 3 years. And with that, especially with the amount of growth that we had, and because I only source the best raw materials on earth, it creates tremendous stress for me. But I've built a very capable research and development team, and so I have a lot of help there now. But if I had nothing to do and just focus on me, I would really take this to task. And I want to make this very simple for you. So every rise, you get out of bed. Look at that cute dog. Every day you get out of bed. For me, and I said it on a few videos, before I go vertical, I drink some salt water. And the reason why I do that is because I want to naturally elevate my blood pressure. I want to naturally get hydrogen and minerals into my cells. And I want to skip my kidneys and my adrenals to have to release adrenal energy so I can save that reservoir for about 10 a.m. to about noon. And that's a very important step because you're picking up electricity by drinking that voltage water. And that's a very important time to pick up that electricity because my body's been in a deep detoxification process throughout the night. And if any of you guys are Ayurvedic masters, you'd understand how the human body goes through a complete detoxification process throughout the organs, into the lungs, into the blood supply, and into the brain. And that's why sleep is so important because sleep is when you detoxify. And that's perfectly accordingly to the adaptation of fasting. When I'm on a 5 day, 7 day, 21 day fast, I'm not really sleeping much. My body doesn't require sleep. The more food you put in your body, the more caloric load, the more you have to sleep. It's just simple as that. And that's why fasting is so important. And we'll talk about fasting in women's health, of course. So salt water, get up on the rise, get exposed to sun immediately. I don't care if it's cloudy. I don't care if you're in the North Pole. I don't care. Get light on your body, get it into your eyes. Extremely, extremely important. Your body turns on as soon as sunlight exposure hits the body. Even the hands, the arms, the eyes, all over. If you can be naked, God bless you. Hallelujah. Get naked. Your body is designed to get sun exposure first thing on the rise. And you want to do that every single day. And if you can get barefoot outside, even better. If you can get barefoot on land that doesn't have a sewage system underneath, even better. Okay, because there is a heartbeat to this earth. Okay, and there's many names for it. We'll just call it the Schumann resonance. We're in an electromagnetic grid, this whatever this dimension is. Okay. I won't get into my personal beliefs and our cosmology, but we are in some type of electromagnetic grid. And that's why we have salt. That's why we have ozone. That's why we have all these elements. And we are carbon-based beings that are made of elemental earth material. Just think how crazy that is. If I removed all the organic minerals from your body, you'd turn into a big pile of sludge within 10, 15 seconds and you would ooze down into the earth. We are literally made of the earth. We're not separate from it. It's phenomenal. Such a trip. So our conduction, our connection to our mother is critical. And because we live in artificial boxes in artificial cities with artificial heat control, artificial lighting, we've basically extracted ourselves from the nucleus of living on our mother. So we got to get back to that. This isn't foo-foo. This isn't some type of hippy-dippy stuff. This is real accountability in the terms of quantum biology. Get out on that earth. The next thing I want you to do is to start humming and singing. And if you want, create some of that fire. You can do breath of fire. You can do whatever, holotropic breath work you want. You want to start extinguishing, right? We're oxygen breathing creatures. What a trip. right? CO2, everyone thinks CO2 is so bad for you. It's not. We need CO2 in our body. So you keep cranking that vehicle. I do this every day. Breathe like a panther. Tap into your favorite animal and picture yourself becoming that animal. It's critical. This is so good for your nervous system. This is so good for your immune system, for your digestive system. Singing, humming, gargling water, critical. Your vagus nerve is attached to the top part of your cranium and goes all the way down to your colon. The group, it's made of like protein microtubules, little enzymatic fingers within them. Very interesting when you look at it. I had the pleasure and honor to be able to see one in real life through a cadaver and really look and see like what these things are made of. And it's very fascinating how the vagus nerves work. And when the vagus nerve is firing and communicating, all of a sudden your body's ability to adapt to all the things around you become first nature. And it's very interesting. You can tell who's got, basically a dysfunctional vagus nerve. People that get shocked really easily. People that get lightheaded when they stand up, right? People that are extremely sensitive to just about everything, right? Because the vagus nerve can't adapt to the stress. You always hear a lot of people, well, I'm very sensitive to all the things, I'm very sensitive. Well, that's good. I commend you for being honest about it. But most of those people have a breakdown in the operating system of the vagus nerve. So we want to do things to get that back. And again, getting up on the rise, salt water, sunlight, grounding to the earth, singing, humming, the vibratory field that you're creating in the audio box is creating an electric current and a channel that activates and wakes the vagus. Now, if you can do that at the same time, going into deep, deep thought, almost like an upregulated thought of your purpose, your purpose in life, what your role is here, what you're stewarding in your life, what you're responsible of. These are foundational to have a committed, strong life and an impactful life. Those are the moments that you start to put in those messaging. It's kind of like, I don't know, emotional healing techniques, right? Why do people tap? Why are people tapping? Because they want to connect the physiological nervous system to the thought. It's the same thing with the vagus, but the vagus is the actual cornerstone of that. Heart rate variability, HRV. This is the variation between heartbeat as whether you're sleeping or not. Anybody familiar with HRV? The more variable the heartbeat is, the stronger and more equipped your nervous system and your vagus nerve is working. Let me say that again. The higher your HRV score, the more variability between your heartbeat means the more adapted your vagus nerve is, which is at the cornerstone of your immune and mental health. So I highly advise, I'm not one of those guys that's like, you got to measure every single metric, all the biohackers, right? Like, I don't even need to mention their names. Like every single little thing needs to be nuanced and measured to the decimal point. I'm not like that. I don't believe that. But I believe that there's certain metrics that should be measured. There's certain blood tests that should be checked, right? And heart rate variability, especially for women, is an extremely important metric. You can get a wearable, you can get an Oura ring, you can get whatever, it doesn't matter. Just figure out how to do that and watch your HRV. I check my HRV every single day. And it's one of the most important telltale signs if I'm off or dysregulated. Like, for example, once in a while, I like to have like a biodynamic French wine, for example. And if I drink more than 2 glasses of it in an evening, my HRV plummets. It goes from an average HRV score of, let's say, I'm probably somewhere around 80 right now. It'll go down to like 45. Why? Because alcohol creates aldehydes. My liver releases cortisol. Now I have adrenaline and other stress hormones throughout my body that's trying to process the alcohol, and it disturbs my sleep cycle. And then the next day, I'm a little bit off, right? Imagine that are doing this every single day for 30, 40 years. You ever notice that someone all of a sudden hits a certain age and then over the next 2, 3 years, they age like 10 years, right? It's like they kind of hit a cliff and all of a sudden, boom. Remember, I told you that our life is not this long, truncated thing, it's in cycles. At a certain point, the burden gets too high, and all of a sudden, you have a crumble. Your body is constantly repairing itself. It's constantly repairing through DNA synthesis, through the Krebs cycle. It's constantly adding proteins and enzymes and vitamins like B vitamins to create new cells and all these things. And if your body's constantly behind the eight ball because there's no cellular coherence, at some point it's going to start repairing it a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less. And that's what we call reactive oxygen species or oxidative stress or the weakening of our telomeres, whatever you want to call it. There's another name for it. I can keep going. But at the end of the day, it's all cellular coherence. And so the fundamentals of your everyday are more important than any stem cell transfusion you can do or anything that Brian Johnson's doing. I don't care what it is. None of that stuff will compare to creating the fundamental mental, emotional, spiritual approach to your daily activity. Let's talk about your first meal of the day, okay? Because this is something that we used to go back and forth on. If you guys know, I was intermittent fasting for a big portion of my life. Um, and then now I'm kind of on the OMAD diet, which is one meal a day, where I get a big portion of my caloric load within that eating window. Okay. I'm not telling you to go into a one meal a day type situation, especially a lot of you. But I will tell you this, your largest meal of the day, in my opinion, based on understanding the nervous system, understanding the body's ability to create balance and equilibrium, should be your breakfast. Your breakfast should be the highest protein meal of the day. It's the time of day that your stomach acid, most of the stomach acids in your gut are strongest. So it's designed to break down the proteins and the fats. If you wake up and you start introducing carbohydrates, especially refined carbohydrates or fructose or a lot of fruit or fruit bowls or acai bowls or things like that, you're throwing more sugar on top of a body that's loaded up with sugar because the liver has basically produced its own sugar on the rise. That all of a sudden is creeping up your insulin, your A1C. Now you're causing metabolic problems. When you have metabolic problems, now you have functional issues that go throughout the circuitry of the human body. So your first meal of the day, in my opinion, after you've hydrated and you had your salts, maybe you had some non-caloric teas, maybe you had shilajit, for example, which is probably foundational for women. That black color in shilajit is just medicine for your thyroid, medicine for your brain, medicine for your reproductive system, medicine for every organ in the human body. At that point, get the protein in. It could be anything. Now, I'm a qualitarian. I've been a qualitarian since day one. I've never been vegan. I've never been vegetarian. I've never been carnivore. I've been a qualitarian, flexitarian my entire life. You guys know my cousin David Wolf, crazy person, was one of the most famous raw foodists in the world in my childhood time. My opinion on food nutrition is very simple. Everybody's different because everyone's in a different cycle. Let me explain that to you. If you look at like Osho, for example, you guys know who Osho is, the Bhagwan, right? I'm giving you like pictures of like, oh, I have like mental pictures. Like imagine some like, you know, Northern Indian yogi or whatever, right? This guy is going to live to 120 years. He's just sitting and meditating all day long. You know what I mean? He's up on the mountain. He's like, that guy, right? Because his whole life is of Vipassana. That guy probably doesn't need a surplus of calories. He doesn't need 2,500 calories, and he does not care about being anabolic. You with me? Anabolic means to build, catabolic means to break down, right? Animal products are anabolic by nature. They build and synthesize protein and genetic expression, where plants, fruits, they catabolize the body. They hydrate, mineralize, and detoxify the body. You with me? Right? So you understand these two, sun and moon, if you will, right? And so the Yogi Bhajan, who weighs 110 pounds and is sitting around all day long and singing and doing all the good stuff, he doesn't need to be anabolic. So his body is prepared to live in a catabolic state consistently, and it's adapted to that, and it works for him for longevity purposes. Now, someone like me, or let's take maybe a D1 athlete, right? Someone who's playing sports, who's building a strong frame, all of those things, they need anabolic material in their body to build strength, to build a metabolic powerhouse system of higher muscles in the body and more elevated muscles. That muscle then becomes an insulin sink, right? So the insulin is stored as opposed to being penetrated out into the bloodstream constantly, right? And that's very, very important because now we're shutting down that high glucose situation, which then leads towards most of the pathologies that we know of: cancer, diabetes, heart disease, even neurodegenerative disease. We know is from a spike of blood glucose. Okay, so for you guys, how do we find a balance here, right? And if your morality is I can't eat animal products, I would never try to convince you of such. That's your decision. But if it's because of health purposes, I would advise you that there needs to be a little bit of balance in your body, especially when it comes to saturated fats, cholesterol, and animal protein. Now, of course, you can get, proteins from plant sources, but the conversion rates, in my opinion, are so low that you actually cause more stress on the body to try to convert those nutrients into applicable information building points for the body. So what we want to do is we want to find through a qualitarian perspective how to get, a balance here. Like what do we do? So for me, for example, my break fast after being fully hydrated and taking some of my supplements is usually a grass-fed, grass-finished piece of steak, or it's, four whole eggs, or it's a lamb chop. And I usually have that with avocado. I have that with sprouts. I have that with some type of fermented food. And I'll do sardines, mackerel, all coming from some of the best sources in the world. Women, in my opinion, should be eating sardines and mackerel every single day. It's one of the most nutrient dense foods with the exact omega ratios necessary for all glandular health and reproductive system health. It is food for your skin, your brain, and your nervous system. And it goes directly in line with the cellular coherence program that I've been talking about when it comes to sunlight, mineralization, and water. See, my first product at Symbiotica that I created was me traveling the world creating the DHA omega formula, right? Which is a combination of DHA, phosphatidylcholine, astaxanthin, and sea buckthorn oil, all omegas, omega 3, 6, 7, and 9. These materials are what create the conductivity in the eyes, in the brain, and the nervous system. So when you have sunlight coming in and that full spectrum of sunlight, it allows that convergence of energy to go through the retina into the optic nerve, into all the different peripheral stuff, and into the brain, and then down into the body. So there's conductivity there, and can actually turn that light into nutrients. And remember, the mitochondria turns sunlight or red light or infrared light from fires into convertible energy. And that energy is, again, ATP, adenosine triphosphate, right? And so omegas are critical critical. Now, I'm not saying go eat a bunch of store-bought fish oil that's most of that's peroxidized and rancid. You know, a lot of those things are filled with hexane. But find a really good source. If it's not Symbotica, find another source. If it's not another source, go straight to the source. Get it from really clean wild sardines and add lemon to it, add your peppers, add your sprouts, all that stuff, and make it into a consistent diet. If you go look at my Instagram, I've posted tons of photos of some of those foods that I make and some of those foods that we eat here in this household with me and my tribe. This is foundational food. So after having that, very strong meal, and you can add a carbohydrate to it, a complex carbohydrate. If you also know that I don't like to combine refined sugars, fruits with proteins and fats. That's common sense 101, right? So if you're going to eat your fruits, eat them before you eat fats and proteins. Fats and proteins take 4 to 10 hours to digest. Fruits take 15 to 20 minutes, right? So the fruit takes 15 to 20 minutes. Your body raises the glycemic index. All of a sudden, you have a little bit of insulin out, and it shuttles all of that nutrition into the cells. Whereas fats and proteins take, anywhere between 4 to 9 hours, depending on the complexity of it. So you never want to have fruits or refined sugar after a protein and fat meal. That's the first line of defense. That's how you create dysbiosis. I know a lot of women that have SIBO because their food combinations were so bad. And if you have SIBO, then your colonocytes are out and your body's not properly digesting food. And then you have leaky gut. Now you're going into all the other celiac and Hashimoto's. I can go on and on, all these funny names when it's just cellular coherence. So after you've had your first meal, what do you do after that? Well, hopefully you've added some enzymes to your meal. Okay. And I'm working on a really, really cool product for that. But in the meantime, take your enzymes. Take your enzymes with every single meal. The only thing I don't think you should eat enzymes with is fruit. There's no reason to eat fruit and add enzymes to it. But everything else, I don't care if it's a sweet potato or if it's a ribeye or if it's a salmon or whatever the hell it is, eat enzymes with every single meal. And any of those like proteolytic enzymes, whatever you can find, all of those are relatively good. It's a very simple product to make. And the more enzymes in the body, the more alive and functioning your body is. You're basically taking the burden off of it. You can even start sipping a little bit on apple cider vinegar about 15 minutes before your food as well, just to get the acetic acid in your gut starting to come out a little bit stronger. That's why I'm very weary of alkaline waters. Now, I'm not trying to crap on anyone's business. I don't know who's selling Kangen water machines, but my problem with that stuff is when you electrify water and artificially create alkalinity from a tap source and you're consistently drinking that stuff, you're causing a little bit of a pH issue in your gut. Remember, our bodies, our muscles, all these areas of the body need to have a nice level of alkalinity to it, but everything in our GI needs to be acidic. Your first line of defense is your oral and gut microbiome. Critical. So if you're using mouthwash or Listerine, you're destroying your entire oral microbiome instantaneously. I don't know, did you guys see that video that I did? I released this study. One round of scope or Listerine, you've stopped nitric oxide production for 4 days. Nitric oxide production is the cornerstone of cellular voltage and vasodilation. It's how your body works. It's how your cells work, the blood vessels. All of it has to have a level of of that dilation. So another big deal for me, and it's a good segue, is the health of your mouth. Because you can't talk about hormonal health, women's health, if a woman's mouth has rotting cavitations, has lost its microbiome, mouth breathing all the time. We now know that most of the oral issues is just, you breathe with your mouth open at night. After about 20 minutes, you've basically fried your body's ability to restore its balance because the mouth is supposed to hold as a reservoir an ecosystem. We're not designed to have our mouths open and breathing through our mouth. So everyone thinks that it's more of like a nervous system thing, just as important as it is to breathe through your nose, which calms the nervous system down, which is why we do nasal breathing, is keeping the mouth soft, warm, moist. If the mouth dries, then the pH of the mouth gets completely destroyed. And then at that point, you're now suffering tremendous loss in the oral microbiome. Most people don't know that. Most people have no idea how important it is to keep your mouth shut while you're sleeping. So all the stuff about mouth taping and all that kind of stuff, it's real. It has a real downstream effect. And it's your oral health at that point that really starts to be the conductor of everything that happens down. Because if you have rotting cavitations and tooth decay and your body isn't properly repairing, it's sending downstream into your body a constant flood of toxins. I had my wisdom teeth pulled when I was 19 years old. Why? I have no fucking idea. I'm so pissed to this day that I had my wisdom teeth pulled. About 7 years ago, when I was in the jungles of Peru, completely asymptomatic, extremely healthy, top of my game, probably some of the best health ever. While I was in ceremony, I started to feel like there was something wrong, something in my jaws. I couldn't tell what it was. I didn't have pain. It's just I was like connecting to it. About a year later, I linked up with one of my best friends today, Dr. Valerie Cantor. She's a top biodentist in the world. I've done tons of podcasts with her. She sits on my board. One of my best friends. And we went and got a cone beam scan. And we went and got the scan. And believe it or not, I had four deep pocketed cavitations, exactly where my wisdom teeth had been pulled. And what's a deep pocket cavitation means I had infections in those pulled teeth, where those pulled teeth were from, 20 years prior. Unbelievable. Immediately went, got all that fixed, got cavitation surgery. I didn't hesitate. I went and got all that. As soon as I got all that cleared out, I was like, I think my IQ went up. I'm not kidding. My ability to problem solve, my ability to react and retain information and be able to be at a constant flow state went through the roof. I was already a public speaker. I went through the roof. Why? Because this is my brain is right here. Why do you think toothaches are the worst pains ever? It's because the nerve is right there to your hippocampus. Your nervous system, there's like nothing to get in between it. Very, very important that we take care of our oral health. And you cannot overlook that. If you aren't scraping your tongue every day, you might as well just go play in the street with a blindfold on. Okay. Now, I'm not trying to be brutal. I'm just, sometimes I'm kind of funny. If you're not scraping your tongue, you are causing major, major downstream effects. Okay. If you're not spending, at least every 3, 4 days with coconut oil in your mouth with some other essential oils or some other compounds, right? You're already behind the eight ball. If you're not flossing twice a day properly, you're behind the eight ball. Okay. Once you start getting to that level, then you can start going into adding additional reservoir stuff, like, maybe ozone therapies in the mouth. You can get an ozone machine for your bathroom, and you can start doing the water pick with ozonated water. And you can start doing other things and start getting into like extracurricular stuff where you're not just trying to maintain, but you're trying to repair, right? There's other things you can do. And that's another thing where like things like peptides, like, body protective compound, BPC, right? Those things help repair tissue, things like that. So that's the oral care position, right? So we talked about how to rise, where to be mentally, how to function, our first food, oral health, movement. Let's talk about specific movements. I think every woman should be doing squats. Okay. Now, do I mean you should be doing heavy bar squats behind your neck? No, I'm not saying that, because just as important as it is to create that very strong compound movement, it's very important that we're not damaging your frame. We're not causing neck issues. We're keeping the lumbar straight. We're keeping the neck straight. We're keeping the posture straight. We're not causing any friction so the nervous system is not getting confused. Your posture is a direct reflection of your health. If your shoulders are constantly forward and your chin is 2 degrees ahead, then all of a sudden your neck, your back, your entire lower body from hip to knee to ankle is out of alignment. And just 2 degrees off causes 10 to 15 to 30 pound delta of how the body should be in alignment. Another reason why I hang upside down every single day. Another reason why I work on exercise to strengthen my pelvic floor. Another reason why I'm doing Kegel exercises every day as a man. A woman should be doing the same thing. These are nervous system additions that get the body in alignment. We want to constantly elongate the body. You want to pull that spine. Okay, this is critical. Functional movements, strengthening the core, strengthening the pelvic floor, strengthening the lower back with lower back extensions are critical for your health. Strengthening your quads, your hams, your glutes are critical. This whole crazy thing with women and getting their butts bigger, they might be onto something, because foundationally, the larger muscle mass you have on your lower body, the more metabolic function you're going to have overall. The higher your thyroid production will be, the more efficient your metabolism will be, and the better sink you'll have for insulin, so your blood glucose isn't spiking all the time. Plus, as a woman and as a man, we got to be able to sit in a squat position. We've been going on for about a little bit over an hour. Everybody stand up real quick. Stand up, get up. We're sitting down too much.
Good idea.
Yeah. Just shake it up, vibrate it, move it, get the lymph going. We're not designed to sit in chairs. This is actually the first time I've actually sat in a chair in a long time. If you watch me every day, you don't, but I'm on team calls with my company. I'm standing up the entire time. For some reason, I decided to sit and I can feel it. We gotta stay moving. Sedentary lifestyle tells the human body that this body does not need to live any longer. It's very interesting. We have certain genomes and expressions that if you're sedentary too much, all of a sudden, the body and the universe says there's no more point of existence. And all of a sudden, all your health parameters start to go in the wrong direction. This is a fact. It's such a trip. Why do you think hormesis is so important? What is hormesis? Pushing your body to the brink. That's why we have to do things that causes stressors in the human body, so the physiology is adaptive and strong. And for a woman, I don't know if you can see me, but I'm sitting in squat position. I'll sit in squat for an hour sometimes. I'll just stay in squat. Most people can't sit and squat.
I'm doing this with you right now, Chervin. Who else is squatting? Let's do it.
In squat position.
All right.
This has
Let's
become
go.
very comfortable for me. You have to be able to sit in a squat and be able to breathe and channel and be balanced and be relaxed. This opens up your entire gait, your hips, lumbar, glutes, quads, pelvic floor, that entire region should be very comfortable in this position. This is the position that all of you guys should be going into the restroom in, right? That's why our knees need to be up. If you're not doing these things on a daily basis, you'll immediately start going the wrong direction. This is a cornerstone of health. And because our time's coming up pretty soon, I'm going to lead this directly into the evening hash. So, how many people still have LEDs in their house? Do you have one LED in your house? If you have one LED light in your house and it's on past 4 p.m., you're causing a major disruption in your entire biochemistry. It's one of the most dangerous things, more so for women than even men. Every light in my home is an incandescent bulb. Can you tell from the camera? Can you see the color of my house?
Yeah, it's dark.
Yeah, it's dark. Because when the sun makes its declination west towards Hawaii, I live here in Laguna Beach. I'm here in Southern California. When the sun makes its declination and is heading west, right, going towards Hawaii, when it goes out of my line of sight, I should not be exposed to any blue nanometer of light. It creates a confusion in my endocrine system as a man. My testosterone starts to falter. Endorphins, epinephrine, biochemicals start to synthesize, the opposite of what it means to start to repair and rejuvenate. So I cut all blue light in my home. Zero whatsoever. These glasses that I have on right here, these are blue blocking low grade glasses. And then if I'm out somewhere, I'm using my friend Matt Maruko's company, Raw Optic glasses, full red spectrum. This is cornerstone number one. You cannot mess with this stuff. You can't take it for granted. Oh, yeah, blue blockers, oh, light. No, it's real. It's more important than any supplement, more important than anything. Light hygiene is critical. I can't tell you how many people that were under the 8 ball, they were sick, they're constantly dealing with autoimmune conditions, couldn't lose the weight, stress induced. I got them light hygiene, their entire lives shifted, their entire reality shifted. It's it's just as important as hydration and mineralization, maybe even more. And the thing is, all of those things, mineralization, hydration, how you wake up on the rise, they're all part of the same equation. You can't remove one. It's like the liver and gallbladder and kidney and heart and lungs, they all work together. You can't just like take one out and say they don't function together. Try to sleep at the same time. Try to get into the habit of saying that this is my ritual every single night. And my ritual is different than your ritual. Find out what works for you. Like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a practice. Now, you might have heard me talk about this. I'm an anthroposophist. I studied under Rudolf Steiner's cosmology pretty much my entire life. And post Symbiotica, I plan to take that up a notch and really go deeper into my spiritual science. Well, part of Steiner's practice as a Rosicrucian was before you go to bed every night, you retrade your entire day. You spend 15 to 20 minutes and you examine every single experience you had from rise to sunset and everything in between. You examine the foods that you ate, you examine every conversation, you examine everything. Everything that made you happy, everything that made you sad, everything that made you want to escape, right? Because escapism's a big thing, right? Social media, all this crap. And by doing such, you can then penetrate into yourself and figure out what works for you, and you take that on to the next day. Now, that is a beautiful ritual and an act of self-love and a connection to God and spirit to do every single evening. That's why the craziest alchemists of all time all had some kind of connection to this internal doctrine. Now, imagine for the next 30 days, You guys do the same practice. So for 20 minutes before you go to bed, you take your journal, you sit in your bed, you have your candle, you have your low spectrum light, whatever you have, the red light on, and you just really sit there in silence and take some notes and evaluate your day. Maybe you don't take notes, maybe you just do it in your head through your meditation practice. Not only will I guarantee you'll have revelations and the best sleep ever, and you'll start building momentum, but I promise you this, you'll build so much more momentum in every facet of your life, from your from your relationships, who you have in your life, like who are the people around you that are serving you or not serving you. You'll also do an introspective work. How am I serving the people around me? Am I vampiric unconsciously? Am I constantly trying to take from people because I have lack? These are the fundamentals of a nucleotide body that lives in balance. Imagine our entire civilization and our population operated with these principles of integrity. Look, would you think we'd be in the state of affairs we're in today, where it's, constant breakdowns? We'd have such a higher level of communication, all this, more nonviolent communication, more connection to our mother, more connection to stewardship, all of those things. Starts from within. And being cellularly coherent gives you an opportunity to do that. Remember, be very careful with the light exposure. Be very careful with stress, anxiety. Be very careful with caffeine exposure. Prioritize your sleep like it is your God-given right to rejuvenate. And sleep, let me tell you this, it's not just about recalibrating the body. It's about also, in my opinion, going into the astral world and getting into lucid dreaming and getting into that etheric, esoteric part of life. We've chopped up sleep as just like this basic thing where you go to sleep. No, the dream state is one of the most important fragments of our life. We spend almost a third of this existent or this incarnation in the sleep state. Just think how wild that is. And if we are negligent to what value that is, we're missing a big portion of it. Some of the smartest, brightest, most gifted people that I've ever come across, and I've met a lot of eccentric people in my life. I've been blessed to have very interesting connections. And I would say a big majority of them take their sleep as an entire like spiritual experience, almost like a medicine journey. And they've really like built up a strategy around it to take it to the next level, to crack a code, to bust through plateaus. And so I highly, highly, highly advise you to not look at sleep as just somewhere where you just lay down, you close your eyes and do some basic stuff. Don't eat too late. I'm basically doing one meal a day, but for you guys, I don't advise that. Have your biggest breakfast and then some type eat probably 3-4 hours before you go to sleep. Get some carbs in at night, complex carbs, squash, sweet potatoes. That will help stabilize your blood glucose so your cortisol's down, you can sleep really good. I take I take a combination of our colostrum and our new magnesium tricomplex that has that patented form of magnesium in there, magnesium glycerol phosphate. I don't know if you've had this. It's so freaking good. So I'm loading up on all the magnesiums at night. Well, Michelle, how you do anything's how you do everything.
I'm like, I was tired before jumping on, and I'm just like, my life force is just, I'm like, holy shit balls, there's a lot here. And just ladies, so you know, I'm so glad I said to bring a journal. I didn't say that on any of the other workshops, and for some reason tonight I'm like, bring your journals. I'm glad I did. And this is going to go up as a replay. This was so much good information. Like, you even just, I'm going to speak for myself. I already thought I was doing things decent. And now I just have so much more. Like, I feel inspired to add more things in, without it feeling stressful. Because I want to name this too, ladies. Sometimes when we start to like get stringent on like all these things we have to do and like go by the rules, the stress of feeling like you have to do it actually can keep you sick. And so, pick what you think might work for you. Try maybe one thing at a time and like see what works. Chervin, I love the taking note of your day before you go to bed. I don't do that. I really think like that's your prayer time, ladies. If you have like a little altar, a little space for you, a visual representation, could be a tiny little thing, it could be a big altar, whatever you need, and that's like your time, your love. You get to sit there and be with yourself, whatever that means. And whether you're drinking your water or you are smelling flowers. For those of you who have been in the summit, did you guys buy your flowers for yourselves yet? Huh? Because I'm going to hold you to that. I want picture proof that y'all went to at least Trader Joe's, $9.99, and you bought your ass some flowers. Because that is one of the most beautiful acts of self-love that you can give yourself. And I have mine right here, actually. Here, I'll show you guys. These ones. I brought them yesterday from TJ's. Yay, purple. Yeah. And honestly, Chervin, I just like there's so many things. If you were to look at my computer right now, there's sticky notes everywhere, so I don't even know which one to touch on. But I will say movement. Thank you for naming movement as well. Like I just dance and I dance at a high intensity. Like I'm dying by the end of the hour and it is the best thing for my body. People are like, cause I'm pretty muscular, but I don't do weights. They're like, what do you do? I'm like, I freaking dance. Like I dance hard though. Like I go 100%. And it's been such a beautiful, mental and emotional and spiritual experience for me. Gosh, like I could keep going on all these things that you touched on.
Dancing is one of the most invaluable methods to connecting to God and spirit, and for
Yeah,
vagus activation, and for thyroid health, and for lymph health. I can go on and on. The art of dancing is so fundamental
yeah.
and powerful. It's just in line with singing, right? Because you're creating a vibrational acoustic experience. And that's so powerful. I love that. I think the practice of dance is phenomenal.
So
Yeah.
good. Yeah, and the singing too. Like, ladies, you don't got to sound good. It's not a performance. It's literally just moving sound through the body. It's literally just toning your body. You could be like, "Bleh," or like, or just, I do it every single day. That's one of my practices. I just bought a Shruti box, actually. My mom got it for me for Christmas. And I'm just like, like I'm not a singer, but it just feels good to move the energy, this energy that gets stuck, just to shake it up a little bit. So huge encouragement for those two things. I also want to say, Chervin didn't even have to be here tonight. He's doing this for free, and just receiving this information, it just shows, this is a download I had while listening to him. Like, you're someone who really actually truly cares. When I asked him, hey, would you want to do a women's summit? He right away was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Beautiful. Like, I'm like, oh wow, I'm amazed that you want to do this. And you came in and you gave us your heart for an hour and a half the whole time. And like, for those of you, like, when we choose the things we want to do, you can feel when someone really is passionate about what they do. Like, you just gave so much life-giving energy to all of us so we can take it and change our lives tomorrow and right now. And so encouraging all you ladies too, like if you're doing something that you don't love, find something you love and allow yourself to step into that authenticity. We've mentioned this before, this is that final shed of the snake. And authenticity is that momentum of the horse. And we just had a full moon in Leo, which was all about authenticity 2 days ago. So use this. This is like the best time. And like you said, Chervin, we obviously showed up on this call, all of us, to hear this information here now. And I'm even speaking for myself, like this landed so deliciously. Thank you for this.
It's an honor. Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you for those kind words. It's an
Yeah.
honor to be here with you, ladies. Yeah, this is my greatest joy is to steward and to teach. I could probably have gone on for another 70 hours straight. I was just trying to like, how do I like jam a few things in here? There's so much to this, but again, I commend you for being here and showing up for yourself, and it's truly an honor. And keep the momentum going. This is just the beginning.
Yeah, so good. Thank you so much, Chervin.
Of course.
And ladies, those of you that are on here too, we have a few more days for those of you that want to. Oh, look at that, we're getting so many hearts. For those of you that want to jump on the breathwork journey, we have 7 more days. So, Chervin was talking about breathwork being such a good modality. I'll be doing it every single morning. It's all free. Like, take advantage of this. We have some amazing speakers as well coming up. Tomorrow we have Adam Roa, who's going to be talking about currency as authenticity in the age of AI, which is so fitting. And also, Chervin, this morning, our speaker was talking on boundaries, which was huge, about leaky boundaries. And then you also, it's just so interesting how y'all, it's just so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love Adam. I've had
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
fun experiences with them.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah.
Terrific. This is great. I
Thank
appreciate
you all.
you. And again, we'll do something like this again. I can feel it.
Yeah, I think this is a beautiful conversation and it's just so needed, so powerful, it's so loving. And last thing I just want to say too is it's interesting for the first time with a male speaker, my nervous system is at its ultimate calm. Like I feel very seen in what you said and I feel like you're authentically meaning it when you say it. And that feels really good. And this work isn't just for women to learn, it's also for men to learn how women's systems work and for us to learn how men's systems work as well. Like we are in this together. So yeah, just really beautiful. Thank you all so much. I put the link to the She Breathe Summit if you guys want to jump in for some breath work. It's in the link there. I love you all. Thank you. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. I've turned my LED light off now, as you guys can see.
Have the
And
best night ever, everyone. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
all right. Take care, everybody.